And now, an exclusive sneak preview of a recent X-Talks webinar, AI and Drug Development, Keeping It Real with Pharma.
But I think, Grazia, it's really important to hear what you think the success means when it comes to an AI partnership. And how can we kind of convince the general pharma groups, like how to think about success when it comes to working with AI companies?
Yeah, so that's a good question. I mean, so I think most of what the expectation for collaborations with artificial intelligence companies is that we're gonna get something faster than normal, cheaper than normal, more efficiently, more likely to succeed. So right. I don't think we expect 100% success rate. I think that, I mean, I'm hoping we're gonna get 100% success rate. Don't get me wrong, but I don't think that's the expectation. The expectation is the risking, making things more, again, faster and more financially, optimized, let's say. And I think maybe a little more on the science side of things. I think that the expectation is that these new tools that we now have are going to allow us to tackle targets that were very hard to address before, for example, or design new compounds that are going to have reduced toxicity from the very, very early stages of a project. So, like, again, that goes in the sense of de-risking a project, right? And so I think I can see how you're saying that you feel like the bar is really, really high, and in a way it should be, I think, but also I don't really think that anyone thinks that this is, or at this point in history, an AI-driven drug discovery project has going to have a 100% success rate.
Right.
So
I love it. We will keep the bar high, and I think
please, yes.
what you mentioned about the 100%, I like the way you mentioned it's like more likely to succeed, because I think that's the kind of openness and transparency. Even the onus is on AI companies to be open about it. Like, we believe, based on where the models are, the accuracy, this is what we think based on all the information we were able to gather and the comprehensive knowledge the system has, that this is the chance to get more likely to succeed versus not. And having that kind of conversations during the work, as well as, in the details, so there is less ambiguity and not just feel like, okay, we just got the final product and we don't know, wait a minute, should we trust this or not? And I think it really comes down to the trust of, like, okay, can we really rely on the system's outcomes, or do we have to do extensive work to validate the system's outcomes? So that gap, if we can help reduce from the AI company's perspective, I think that could reduce that. The bar is high, but it's also a rational bar rather than, hey, let's just get 100% accuracies. And, it's just a very different mindset. And, bringing that as then my next question, and it's been quite on my mind for a while. And at JP Morgan, there was quite a bit of discussion, right? Workforce reduction. The fear of AI adoption will reduce the workforce because we don't need enough humans. And, eventually there's a whole conversation about AI taking over the world. And, there are real fears about it. And that also stops from many companies to really have an external collaboration, because they're like, well, I don't want my job to be impacted. So it's a very serious question, and it's on many people's mind. And, even though they don't say it, this is the reality, because, we are humans after all. Like, we have families and, health and whatnot. So let me ask you, how did you get fearless in a way? And more importantly, how do you see, like, do you think this is a real fear, real threat to the workforce, or is this something, just some vibe right now in the industry?
That is a very tough question. And I feel like I can answer this from the point of view, again, of a mid-sized pharmaceutical company. So I'm not entirely sure this is going to be applicable to, the big giants out there. But from my experience, I don't really see that as a threat to either myself or my biologist colleagues or my colleagues in chemical synthesis and all of that. If anything, to be honest with you, I feel like if we're able to get to more and more molecules faster in in vivo and in vitro to like further stages closer to the clinical development, I feel like we might need more people, if anything.
I love it. Yeah.
I mean, so just as an example, I feel like talking to you guys, we've really been clear saying we cannot do any experimental work on this in 2024. It will need to be in 2025 because we need to allocate the resources we have to this kind of like faster pace that we expect coming out of AI. So maybe that's. I don't think I'm not joking when I say that. It's a feeling that I have, and prove me wrong if in 2025 something changes. I don't know. But the other thing I want to say to that, I think it's really important to keep in mind that this is where the field is going. And so if you want to be up to date with what's out there, if you want to be competitive in the job market, you need to some extent, at least, train yourself, read as much as you can about this. Technical, less and more or less technical, depends on the single individual on how much they want to delve into Python coding or whatever it is. But I really think this is something that especially I feel like people my age, people that are approaching this field or have been in this field for maybe like 10 years or so, you need to be absolutely open to learn how this new technology works. Even if it's just like, my company has got this platform in licensing, how do I use it to make my work, again, more efficient, faster, and so on? And, it can be at a very high level, as I mentioned, but I feel like we need to be able, we should have an open mind to retraining and learning, continuously learning, especially, I feel like as a researcher, one of the things I love most is learning continuously, new things. And I think a lot of my colleagues are like that as well.
To view the entirety of this webinar, visit the link in the description and register on xtalks.com completely free of charge.